Thank you for being patient with me this morning with a lot of changes. And those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. And it usually goes a lot quicker than this at the beginning of the call. But hey, you showed up on a day that you were getting super caught up with the transition that we're actually in the middle of right now. So with that said, let's move into breakout rooms. Alicia's going to go ahead and open up the breakout rooms. Remember, you have 4 choices. I'm going to go off camera and read through the chat and read through everything that's there. And when you get back, we're going to dive into some content. Okay. You shut down and then I shut down. And here's the cycle. That sounds like you guys are sort of stuck in this approach avoidance thing. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So where would you like to begin?
So I'll say something that causes Daisy to shut down, obviously. And then I'll want connection. So I'll try to pursue her, and I'm a little anxious in the pursuit. And then those attempts sometimes get shut down, and then I retreat, and then she tries to come back, and then I push her away. So I'm going psycho. Yeah.
Okay. So Daisy, when you shut down, what are you needing?
When I shut down, I'm usually needing like no words, just touch. And sometimes Jeffrey gets in a space where he wants to give more information or get more reassurance. And I'm not ready to take in any more information. I'm not ready to give any more information. And I can feel that. I think the glitchiness is when he's like, can you answer this question? Can you answer this question? Can I have reassurance? And I'm at capacity because I feel like he's not regulated. And when his nervous system is really, really hyped up, my defenses get turned on. And I just want to talk when we're soft and resonant, not when we're super hyped up, because then things come out of our mouth that we don't mean. Because I know when our mobilization system is turned on, we speak in evaluation, thinking, strategizing.
Yeah. So what happens when you hear that, Jeffrey? What happens in you?
I realize that I want to be more resonant, and I want to approach the situation with exactly what she says with my MVC online, and give her the touch or the thing she needs. But there's this like high level of anxiety where I feel as though if I do give that, I'm giving away like a piece of myself, or like a piece of my like I'm giving into something, and I think that's something I need to meaning make differently. Instead of thinking that I'm giving in, that I'm actually giving to my partner,
Yeah. Another way you can frame it is, so I'm curious, well, actually, let's go here first. Like when you say you feel like you're losing a part of yourself or giving in, what are you losing? What are you sacrificing?
I guess like a little bit of like if I keep doing this, then I'm like approving that behavior, that I'm like allowing her to continue to act that way if I keep soothing her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You hear the language there? I'm approving, I'm allowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the part of you that goes a little bit one up, right? And there's a fear underneath that part that if I respond in a relational way, I might inadvertently enable more of this behavior. Is that true or not?
Yes.
Okay. It feels to you like if I respond in a relational way or a soft way or a compassionate way, that I'm sending the message that this is okay with me. And I don't want to send that message. So I withdraw myself and I buffer it as a strategy for expressing how much I don't like this.
Yeah.
Does that fit or not? Yeah.
That fit very much so. Yeah.
Okay. To the degree that you think you're doing it for her, it's going to be hard for you to switch out of that. So let's see if we can figure out how you might be doing that actually for you. Because in that moment, what are you needing? Do you know?
I'm needing, honestly, I think I like a lot of reassurance, and I get really anxious, I think. And I think reassurance and comfort and care, and that would really help a lot.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, in the moments of disconnection, your nervous system gets super activated and dysregulated.
Yeah.
And then you are looking for an external source to help re-regulate you so that you can come back down into a softer space. Is that true? Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, that fits.
You want that from her. And then when she's not willing or able to give it to you in that moment, what happens for you?
I feel kind of push more disconnect from her, like like less connected, less more withdrawn, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You protect yourself by withdrawing, like you do back to her what you think she's doing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is the cycle we get stuck in.
Yeah.
Okay, so just as a couple of points of like places to look at and think about, and this is just for clarity.
Mm-hmm.
When either one of you is getting anxious and activated, the person who needs to reassure and comfort and soothe is yourself. You can ask your partner to do it, and if they are available for doing it, that is an incredible healing gift when it's online. Like, that's beautiful and lovely when your partner is willing and able to do it. When your partner, either way, is not willing and able to do it, then we want to figure out a reorientation where you are not abandoning yourself and you're not feeling like the only way for me to feel better is to get this thing from my partner, because that's where we get stuck in a lot of power struggles and a lot of you did it to me, so I'm going to do it to you games. Does that piece make sense so far? I have more to say, but does that piece resonate or not?
Yes, it resonates. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So one of the things we can begin doing is taking 100% responsibility for our own nervous system activation and realizing in a very compassionate way, oh my goodness, I have a lot of fear running through my system right now. And when I have all of this fear running through my system, I have a deep desire for connection and comfort and reassurance. And my partner isn't available for that right now, which is actually making it worse. So instead of seeing that as bad behavior that I need to punish and make go away because it's so painful to me, I reorient my attention to myself. And I say, what is it that I am needing? I am needing comfort and soothing. I need to be seen. I need to be known. I need to be understood. I am going to start giving that to myself. I am going to begin working with myself in a new way. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with my partner. We're in a moment of disconnection that is feeling really painful. My habits when I'm in a moment of disconnection that feels really painful is to try and get something outside of me to bring in. If that was available, that would be great. It's not available right now. So I'm going to be here for me if I can. Now, if I can't, then you need a team of 5 people that you call next, okay? Sometimes if we can learn to do this for ourselves, that's great. But often for myself, the pathway to learning how to do it for myself is having alternative people that I can call in that moment so that it doesn't become a power struggle with my partner. Because the need that I have, some help re-regulating my nervous system and getting back into a place of safety and reassurance and comfort, that is a really important need. And if my partner can't give it to me and I can't give it to me, then I need my list of 5 people who are going to help me get there. But it can't be my partner, because otherwise it's going to come with so much demand energy that it's going to make things worse. So far, so good. How are you reacting to that piece?
It feels really good. Feels like solutions. It feels like get some people to talk to you,
Get some people to talk to you, because the need you have is real.
Mm-hmm.
And there are millions of people on the planet, some of whom would be happy to help you meet that need. So find them, get them on speaker, and you can also get that community of we have certain friends in our lives. And if we don't, let's cultivate them, that are really empathic, that are good at healing, that are on a personal growth journey, that would know what it means when you call them up and I'm like, I just had a fight with so-and-so and I just need 15 minutes to help me get back into a different state before I continue, because I am not okay right now. There's something really powerful about being able to track that in ourselves, take responsibility for that in ourselves, and then ask for the help that we need in that moment. And there's something really powerful about building those kinds of communities in your lives, if you don't have them yet. What's coming up for you next, having heard what I said so far?
Well, I think cultivating, I have empathy buddies that I've been using when I just can't get the empathy and compassion I need from Daisy. So I've been doing that, but I think I need to continue to try to just build that skill, which is, I think is, not easy. We just want to reach for the same things,
It's not easy. And partly because what I think you're describing has to do with your attachment styles.
Mhm.
And that's beyond the scope of what we're going to do a lot of depth with on this call. But I would really recommend that you, if you haven't already, go and read about the different kinds of attachment styles that we can get flipped into and that we
I
might
have.
get flipped from. Okay, great.
I'm a
So
fearful avoidant, by the way.
say that again.
I'm a fearful avoidant.
You're a fearful avoidant. And Daisy, do you know what you are?
I am like 88% secure. And then the other part is disorganized and avoidant.
Okay, yes. So, you already have a lovely frame for just understanding what is coming up for each of us and how that might get glitchy in the interactions. And I'm hoping that that helps you both not take it so personally. Does it or not?
It really helps, actually.
I'm able to not take it personal because my prince, when he gets upset, he'll trash the whole relationship, which is what fearful avoidants do. So I've learned to be like, oh, he's having big emotions today. Let me go for a skateboard ride.
Yes. Wait, you go for a skateboard ride when he's having big emotions?
I let him, yeah, because if I stay, then it can escalate. And we're at the point right now where we're not able to de-escalate together.
Got it. Got it. So yeah, then
it'll take like 8 hours for our fights to dissolve. I've taken my relationships from the red zone to the green zone before. You remember me talking with my other partner with you, Joseph. So I've done this work before.
You are both. It sounds like you're both on the right track. What else do you want to ask about this piece?
The last thing I want to say is we tend to have our fights on Tuesday. So if we could just keep having our fights on Tuesdays, then we could just keep coming to the call Wednesday for coaching. So I'm hoping that he'll keep picking a fight with me on Tuesdays.
Yes, because then you can come here and then we can do a little bit of debriefing. Is that right?
That's right.
Got it. Yeah. The only other thing that occurs to me that I wanted to loop back to is this idea of start tracking. Jeffrey, you were talking a little bit about that sort of punishment mentality that happens where we are afraid to be relational because we don't want to enable behaviors we don't want. I would really recommend doing a little bit more work around just sort of unmerging that. And one way to do it is I have a need for connection. So in this moment, if I can connect with myself and just put my hand on her back or just make the physical contact that it sounds like I heard earlier she would be open to, but doesn't want a lot of debriefing, does that meet my needs for connection? Will that help? Will my putting my hand on her back help me regulate my own nervous system? Because if you're doing it to get the thing you're actually wanting, which is the comfort, the reassurance, and the connection, then it won't feel to you like rewarding behaviors that you don't like. It'll feel to you like making a choice that moves me in the direction of what I'm actually wanting. How does that land on you?
Feels good. It feels like just find out. I think I need to tap into what actually calms my nervous system in that moment and just experiment with it. Like you said, put my hand on her back. These are all new things that I haven't done in ways of connecting with someone that are all new. So,
and you can on the back end, you can also debrief when you are both in a more connected and regulated state. You can also make it a habit of sort of debriefing. How did that go?
Yeah.
The way that I would debrief it is by amplifying what did we each do that worked, not analyzing what didn't work, but literally saying, when you gave me the space and didn't insist on me talking, that really helped me. It actually helped me re-regulate myself and get there. Or when you just put your hand on my back and didn't put more words in the space, that really helped. Like try to identify the things you're each doing for each other that are actually working so that you can build on them as a debrief. Yeah. Thoughts?
Yeah, it feels really good.
Okay. I love your question. Do you feel complete there? Anything else?
I feel complete.
Okay. Daisy?
I feel complete too. Thank you, Yvette.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. Okay. Questions in the room. Sean, you have a question. Sean's.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this question is relating to the people that you suggest. I'm curious if you're suggesting, I hope you can hear me. There's a lot of background noise. I'm curious if you're suggesting therapist or coach, like a professional support, because I'm thinking like I do have support, but I don't have people on call in that sense. It's like I'm making an appointment. And friends, so it's an interesting thing. I'm really close with my family. But when I'm having a dissonance with my partner, I'm absolutely not going to go to my family because I don't like putting, that energy. They don't need to know the inner workings of my relationship. That's a boundary I've discovered.
100%.
Thanks to your course. And then there's a lot of embarrassment I have around close friends that also are close for both of us, me and my partner, because then they start to think like, oh, there's issues in your partnership, that sort of thing. So I'm curious what you recommend around that. I'm thinking like I could approach a couple of friends and say, hey, can you be my pillar to help regulate my nervous system? So I'm curious what you say about that.
So I love your question. I think what you're bringing up there is, what are some of the things to consider and what are the discernments needed when we start creating a community of people who might help us with our own personal growth? Because one of the concerns I think I'm hearing you say is, I want to also protect our relationship and the perception of my partner from, creating alliances with people in my life that then might not like my partner when I'm actually wanting to work on a relationship moving forward. And I want to protect them from having a negative impression. Am I getting that piece right? That's part of it. Yeah. Okay. So yes, be discerning. And in terms of what I'm recommending, I recommend a lot of diversity in that group of people. I personally think having professionals on hand, like having a therapist, I have a coach, I have people that are that I pay money professionally to listen to me with high stakes things that I want to have be private and confidential, and who have known me for a very long time and can kind of pick up on where I'm at and where we are at, and it can, attune very quickly. So of course, I would always recommend that if that's something that is available wherever you are in the world and that you have access to. Secondarily, I like the suggestion sort of that you're making, that we want to be very discerning and thoughtful about who we're sharing what with. And for myself, like the way that I do it is I have a few friends who are very much on a very similar journey that I am, which involves the assumption that no one is doing anything wrong and that there are no bad actors and that we're all unconscious trying to do the best we can. And when I'm calling you for help, I'm not asking you to form an alliance with me and vilify this other person. I'm asking you to help me get much more connected to myself so that I can make a wise decision from my functional adult wise self who wants to be in charge of my life. And I'm not burning things down through the lens of my 5-year-old who's having a temper tantrum. So that's what I'm getting really good at asking for what it is that I'm needing. And sometimes if my 5-year-old is wanting to burn everything in my life down because she's upset and hurt and angry, and I don't feel like I have myself online enough to work with her, then I have at least, 3 really close friends that I can call and say, I'm struggling, I need some help. And they know exactly what I'm looking for. And the focus isn't on analyzing the other person or figuring out who's done what wrong. The focus really is on what's going on, what is getting activated, how do I get in a calmer place myself, how do I get the empathy and the reassurance and the comfort that I need and the self-understanding that I need, so that I can then figure out my next move in a way that is much more in alignment with my authentic, awakened, empowered self and not my wounded self. And I think we can sort of figure that out, with who's available in our lives and then seek out wherever we find the gaps. How's that landing on you?
That's great. And thank you for clarifying. As you were explaining it more, the people were coming clear to me. So thank you.
Great. Good luck. Go make your list. Excellent. Thomas, you're up.
I so much wish that some of these conversations happened earlier in my life. And it's so great to see Sean's processing this. In my years of work and doing this kind of work, making sure to set the container, and not everyone deserves to be part of hearing the story, so to speak. And knowing who your people are, you can trust. Even some of my higher caliber ones that have done the work, making sure I set the container, that what I'm coming to them with is held appropriately and that they're able to respond appropriately. It's what I've learned in the hindsight, but it's really good stuff you're putting out here. And I just wanted to chime in about the container.
I love that. So let's put a little more language to what we mean by creating the container. And I think I'm imagining, and tell me if this is what you mean, like when I call somebody up, being really intentional and clear about what I'm asking for and what it is that I'm needing, and then finding out if they're available for that. Like,
oh yes,
spend a couple of minutes at the beginning saying, here's what's going on for me. I'm really activated. I'm really upset. Do you have 15 minutes right now to really give me some empathy and help me get connected to myself again? Because I can't do it for myself in this moment. Are you available for that? And getting, being very clear about what we're asking for, and always building in a check that the other person is willing and able and available for that. Would you add more to that?
No, I think that's the perfect addition to what I was trying to state. I mean, and I've experienced where I've come to people with things and not realized that I didn't set the container, and even the stuff I'm downloading, not even evaluating. I love her boundaries. I mean, she's already got the clue. I didn't realize that early on doing some of this work. So I was sharing with everyone that I thought had the skills, and just because I think someone has the skills doesn't always mean that they're ready to hold that container.
Beautiful, beautiful. So a couple of things we're discerning there. Does the person have the innate capacity to do it? Do they have the willingness to do it? And then another piece that I think I heard you say a little bit earlier is, do I trust them to hold this in a way that serves our collective well-being or not? Do they listen in a way that will hold and honor everybody's needs or not? And this was the piece where you said something earlier about not everybody deserves to hear the story. Did I hear that piece right?
Yeah, those were my words. In the communities I operate in, being authentic and not hiding stuff becomes a kind of a push-pull. And it's like, well, I'm not hiding anything from you, but you don't have my trust to hold my story and not affect or create eddies in our community with this information. Yes, exactly. It's one of those interesting discernments, right? Between privacy, confidentiality, hiding, secrecy, not being transparent, not being vulnerable, being vulnerable. And what I'd say, as each of you are navigating those discernments, trust your nervous system. If you're feeling resistance, honor it and find out what the resistance is about. This is about staying choiceful. Don't have my recommendation would be not to have sort of a rule in your head that transparency is good. Therefore, I'm going to be transparent and vulnerable with everybody all the time, because that's now a good thing. This is going to get people into a lot of trouble. So I really appreciate you bringing in this idea of really discerning for context. What is available in this particular relational frame, and being choiceful about what is good for each of our well-being. So thank you for bringing that in. Yeah, great. Okay, should we move on to the next question? Sean, I think you are up. So I'm going to read you a question and let me know if you'd like to be in conversation. When hearing demands and punishments, and they are agreeing that they are demanding and punishing, I can simultaneously compassionately protect myself while also feeling compassion for them, that this is the best way they know how to meet their needs. So I hear a lot of generosity in there, Sean. Like, I get I get that this is a strategy. I'm trying to stay in a place of compassion. However, I struggle to channel compassion for myself and others when I experience demand energy and judgments from those who are saying they want to connect, contribute, and show love. Maybe it's their tone of voice, or they provide a judgment and say, well, that's how I feel. And in those situations, I show up very reactively. Question, how can I show up more compassionately and choicefully? Hey, Sean, how are you?
It's me. Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
So, what do you already know about the answer to this question, and where do you want me to start?
I'm not too sure. It's like my nervous system gets hijacked, and I'm like, the strategies I adopt are like maybe digging into these are not productive strategies.
Got it.
I think one thing I do is like I try to dig into the words and parse their words and be like, see, aha, you are doing a demand. It's like, that's not productive. That doesn't work.
Okay. When I read your question, what I'm hearing in it, and I'll float this out and you let me know how you react, is you know exactly what to do in these situations. You're just bumping up against the limits of your current capacity. There are just certain situations, certain triggers, certain people, certain old conversations that are likely loaded and carry history, whatever it is, where it's more difficult for you at the moment to apply what you already know. And here's what I'm going to tell you what I think you already know, and then you tell me, where you want to go from there. But I think when I read your question, so you're studying nonviolent communication and you're trying to apply the tools of nonviolent communication. That's what I'm hearing. Is that true? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
And so part of where you are in your journey is that you can recognize and identify when somebody is using a judgment or trying to use psychological coercion to demand something or force something. Like they might use words like you have to and you must and you should. And now that you can identify it, you can also identify in yourself the resistance that comes up in you in response to that way of being. Am I tracking that accurately or not?
Yes.
Okay. And sometimes you can get into a place in your mind where you can see through it. You can say, oh, that's a demand, that's a strategy, that's a judgment. I want to stay in a place of compassion, which in this practice would mean staying connected to my feelings and needs, trying to see through your strategies into your feelings and needs, and you can stay in a place of compassion. However, sometimes you're saying that I get reactive. And it basically just means I can stay on the balance beam for so long, and then my own defenses kick in and I lose my center. Am I tracking this accurately? Yes. Okay. So the question is, what do I do to show up more compassionately and choicefully? Okay. Keep practicing. Keep practicing. And the practice, the central practice is when you notice your nervous system getting activated, begin with your body and relax. Remind yourself, even if this person is speaking to me with demand energy, I don't have to do anything. Even if they're trying to communicate what is important to them through criticism and evaluation and judgment and analysis of what is wrong with me, I can translate that into what they're trying to say instead of how they're saying it. I can look for the deeper meaning. Where is the pain? Where is the fear? What is so important to them about this? I can work with the part of me that starts to take it personally. And when I fall off that balance beam and I start taking it personally and I want to defend myself and I move into my own defensive way of being, then I'm going to reorient my attention and remind myself that's okay. That's just fine. I also get to protect myself. I also get to see that this is getting me beyond where I'm able to stay in this other realm that I'm reaching for. And now I get to rest. I get to just disengage and rest. I wasn't able to go longer than that. Maybe it was like you said in your question, maybe it was their tone of voice. Maybe it was a particular judgment that was just too close to home. And it's a judgment I already have of myself. Maybe it just activated too much pain and I wasn't able to stay in the nonviolent, relational, compassionate space for as long as I would like. I would think of it like lifting weights in a weight room. I really want to be able to lift a particular weight and I'm going to do my reps, but at a point I just get fatigued and I can't do any more than this for today. And then I would work with myself really compassionately in my relationships where I'm like, yeah, listen, I'm practicing this nonviolent thing. I'm practicing the staying in compassion thing. And that's as much as I had in me today. And it is good enough and I am good. How's that landing as a way of orienting around that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can walk away like, oh, I've given all my MVC spoons up. I've used up all my MVC spoons for the day. No more left.
This is what I had for today. And then this is the tragedy of where we disconnect. And I'll go tend to me. And I hope this other person will tend to them. And we'll come back to this conversation when we're both feeling a little bit better.
Oh, and that sounds really nice. Right. Just saying it like that. It's like, hey, I've been trying to focus on what you've been feeling and needing, and I'm trying to focus on mine, but I'm feeling tired.
Yep.
And exhausted, and I really need to go
resource myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to go and do a little bit of self-connection and resource myself. And kind of gather myself together, because if I keep going right now, I'm going to move into a lot of my default programming, which for me tends to be, and then if you know what it is, you can describe it. For me, if it was me, I'm like, listen, if we keep going right now, I'm going to get more and more superior and condescending and attacking and passive aggressive. And I want to protect you and me from that. So I'm going to bow out as a way of protecting us both from where I can feel myself wanting to go. Because I'm about to switch into,
I think I can say, if we keep on going, I'm going to start channeling my inner New Yorker.
Yep.
And then, that's going to, yes, we're both going to be struggling.
Yeah, we both know where that goes. We've had that conversation 52 times in the last week, and we don't want to do that anymore. So I'm just going to start interrupting it. That's the best I can do right now, is stop it from happening. And then I'll figure out what I can bring back that's new when I've had a bit of rest and a bit of clarity.
As we're saying that lends well. As we're saying that,
okay,
I'm imagining NVC for New Yorkers, like with a New York accent. Hey, you feeling good and eating? Like.
I like it. I want to hear more of that. I want to hear more about how that lives in you.
Anyway, thank you.
You're so welcome. I hope that was helpful for now. Excellent. Okay, any questions on this piece? Nope, we're good. I'm going to move on then. I have Monique. Monique, I'm struggling with how to address a big issue in a community when they want to sweep it under the carpet. I believe there are still inconvenient conversations that need to happen for the well-being of humanity on whatever scale. I would love to chat about it. Hi, Monique. What's up?
Hi.
Hi.
Well, like I said, I'm struggling, and I have this part that's like a Joan of Arc part. I've talked to you about this before, but it's left my mind.
Yeah. We'll do a refresh.
Yeah. So hold on just one quick sec. Sorry about that. It's like I'm discussing this conflict between two communities. I see injustice happening. It's like this thing, like I was in college, and there was a really bad event that happened between a few men at a fraternity. I remember reading the news article, and it said it was from another fraternity. And they're like, what is all this backlash about over what one fraternity did? It's not all fraternities, it's one fraternity. And I thought to myself, it's not one fraternity. You named 4 guys in that article. So they were doing the same thing that they were condemning. They were saying, don't condemn all the rest of the fraternities for what only one fraternity did. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
It wasn't one fraternity, it was 5 guys. And okay, so what is that relationship between those 5 guys and the fraternity? How much responsibility actually does the fraternity have? It's a situation like that, where my community is attacking another community for what 3 people viciously did to a few people in our community who they say were just as vicious. And I have someone I love more than any of the people I dance with in that other community. That's where that's where my connection comes in, besides the Joan of Arc of this is injustice. Is that enough info to say something, or what would you like to know?
Let me tell you what I think I'm getting, and then let's see where it goes. So it's I guess what I'm most curious about is, what are you aware of what the deep need is that you have, that you're trying to meet? Like, if you were going to ground yourself completely subjective as you're watching all of this, what's happening in you? What are the values in you that are getting activated?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of my work and have several people that I get to call and privileged to afford right now.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yay. Celebration.
I got all the inheritance came from the ones who did all the damage. I'm like, yes, I'll take it. Thank you. I need to spend it on healing.
Lovely.
Well, at the very bottom, I had severe neglect. So I'm moving through this fear of not feeling safe, and that threat lurks everywhere. And I'm doing work with people to actually rewire my network to go looking in all 6 directions down about, oh, I'm safe now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, as though I would need to do that, but I have to rewire my network to know that. So that is definitely being kicked up. There's like this imaginary threat that's not real
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to me somehow.
Well, maybe it's an imaginary threat. Tell me if this fits or doesn't. That isn't present in that moment and isn't actionable in the moment. But I don't know. I have a question about whether it's not real. It sounds like you're noticing things happening out in the world where people are being harmful to one another. Is that true?
Yeah, it's not a life or death thing, but yes, that's true.
Yeah. So they're being, let's say,
So
psychological.
are you saying that's a threat? One little caveat is this person who's working with me said, try not to talk about safety other than for physical safety first. Because my neglect as a child was about physical safe, like crying and not having someone come and not upset and not having the person there to regulate my body and my system so that I felt like I was going to die. And so there's I don't know if that piece helps you or not, but.
Okay, let me tell you what I think I'm getting. And then you tell me what I'm missing.
Okay.
You're observing situations in your life where you are perceiving harm happening between people, whether it's between fraternities, sort of attacking one another and doing, things to one another that they're accusing the other of doing, or in this community that you're in, you're seeing a way that people are interacting with one another that doesn't meet your needs for safety and care and collaboration or whatever,
Justice.
Whatever justice. And when you are perceiving that, you are also noticing that you have some young parts inside of yourself that get activated that have been traumatized in the past and that have quite a bit of charge loaded on them in terms of your subjective reaction to these instances. And you're wanting to work with that part of you as you also try to figure out what is a constructive, proactive, nonviolent response to the things that are actually happening around you that you're observing. What am I missing?
What you don't know is a lot of loud, angry voices going, stop. I don't care about the 418. Why are you doing this? You're upsetting our whole community.
So people,
and I'm like, yeah, it's inconvenient. Yeah, it's a buzzkill after we had a nice event today, and shit's going down that, it's like a big old skeleton in the closet.
So there's something in the community that you're wanting to raise everybody's awareness about explicitly, and that you're inviting people into a more aware and conscious conversation around. And some people are getting very angry about that. And
they wouldn't see it that way at all. Yeah. They're like, you're an asshole and you're destroying our community. No, they're not really saying that much, but it's more like that.
Okay. So, and then when that's happening, they're responding to you in this way. You have this little girl and you have all of this charge happening in you about fear and safety. Am I picking that piece up accurately?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's also Joan of Arc who's charging with the sword, but fortunately she's not using the sword. She's using her banner.
Okay.
But she's still a warrior.
Okay. So then there's this warrior part of you that wants to come in and kind of effect some change. And what is the change you're hoping to affect?
Healing.
Okay. So your primary intent.
Sounds ironic when I say that.
Why does it sound ironic to you?
Because I'm increasing conflict in some way. It's pretty wild, isn't it? Like,
well, sometimes, let me get
MLK, there's riots happening for people that think he's full of it. People killed him.
Yeah.
And he's trying to talk about a peaceful mission.
Yes. So you're sort of.
I'm not comparing myself to him.
No, I know. I didn't hear it that way. I heard it like, here we are really trying to go to bat for something that is healing and peaceful, but the process in getting there feels like it's really ridden with violence and conflict. Is that what I mean?
And I take responsibility for my part of that. I do.
Yeah.
Some of my approaches have not been helpful at all. Have backfired.
So how can I help you today? What would you like from me?
I just am listening to you and like trying to get grounded in reality about it, and like a check in with somebody who's not caught in it, you know, and I just have this thing where like, okay, I do want to have peace in my community. I do want to be able to relate in a way that doesn't get everybody going.
Yeah.
But if, for example, I'm talking about the death penalty and everybody thinks it's perfectly great, and I'm like, what about trauma and helping these people? And by the way, the research shows it doesn't deter murderers.
Yep.
What it's like, you know, nobody wants to hear it, but does that mean I don't say it?
Is that a question?
Yes.
I would say it, but I would find a way of saying it if I could, that was in alignment with my sense of living into what it is I'm asking for, because that's one of the things that I think I'm hearing you struggling with. The disconnect between the methods for change are sometimes representative of what we're trying to change. Like we can inadvertently use domination strategies when we're trying to undo a domination system.
Yeah, I'm totally in there part of the time.
So one, I'm going to say, let's make peace with the fact that this is inherently messy, and that doing something is always better than doing nothing because you're worried about it not being done right or perfectly. So if we're going for change, we're going to go for change. And if we're going to stand for something, we're going to stand for something. And if it's imperfect and sometimes lacks integrity, we're just going to keep practicing and doing better each time. But we're not going to wait until we're perfectly ready. Otherwise, nothing will ever get done. So that's one piece. So give yourself permission to like be in the middle of a huge, messy conflict. That's much better than not going to bat for change. As I'm in this deep, messy conflict, and I'm noticing that there are ways that I'm bringing things that maybe are more aggressive, or maybe are more critical, or maybe are more demanding, or maybe are more domination style, you know, like forcing you to do it my way, or getting into a debate. And, you know, maybe I notice myself drawing on some of those tools. One of the ways I can work with myself is sort of having a lot of compassion for those are the ones that got activated. What might I do next time? We use hindsight and foresight, right? I debrief how I showed up, and I think about what I would want to up level next time, and I stay with the process. And each time I engage, I just do it incrementally, one step a little bit better. So that's one thing. We work with things as they are. We can't sort of force everything to just be perfect all at once. It'll never happen. So we've got to hold this vision of what it is we're reaching for. And then we need to be super compassionate with ourselves and others, that we're all going to mess it up as we go. Like, it's just not going to go perfectly. So I hold the vision. I look at what Parker Palmer calls the tragic gap between how I wish I was showing up and how I am showing up. And I keep showing up to practice getting closer and closer there. And I realize that everybody else is doing that too, but it's going to be messy and conflict-ridden along the way. That's just the way it's going to be. How does that land as a start?
Really well. Really well. And I want to just say, because who knows what people's imaginations are doing. I fucking rocked it as I surrendered and was grounded in the meeting. I was not nearly as triggered as I am right now. People were firing and I was just grounded. It was just unbelievable how far I've come. There have been times like emails and things, but it's nothing like you might imagine. It's like, you know, and then there's people bullying, and then they're going, I feel bullied. And I'm like, I know who's being bullied in this room. It's very clear.
There's a lot of projection that can happen. There's a lot of awareness that we're fielding. There's a lot of attacking. And it sounds like there's such a celebration in this moment of you looking at how you're dealing with it now that really represents progress for you based on how you might have done it 10 years ago. Is that true?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And you've been part of that. So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Anything left on this piece?
No, I'll just keep listening. Thank you so much, Yvette.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. It reminds me, I'm just going to leave everybody with a little bit of a story or a metaphor, an image. Like, my mother once told me a story about when she was a little girl. She grew up in Rhodesia, South Africa, Southern Africa. She grew up in Rhodesia. And she spent a lot of time running out in the African savanna and the veldt. And she once got I don't know if you know the acacia trees in Africa, but they have very, very long thorns. and she got a thorn stuck in her hand between her thumb and her index finger, and it went deeply in. And somehow I may be completely butchering the story. My mother will probably correct me at some point, but the way that I remember it, the way that I heard the story, so this is my version of her story, is that for some reason she didn't feel like she could draw on support from her parents, which we could understand if you knew her parents. And so she felt like she had been bad and she shouldn't have this thorn in her hand. And so she wanted to hide it from her parents instead of asking for help, right? And what happened was the thorn had gone in deeply enough and it began to fester and it began to get infected. And so by the time her whole hand began to get sort of infected and in pain. And the only way to get that thorn out was to surgically go in and get the thorn out and clean out the wound. So, the reason I'm telling you this story right now is because psychological pain can be like this, and systemic change can be like this. We can't just, there are things that have wounded us, and there are things that are in the system, in our psyche, that we need to go back in. And it sometimes involves violently cutting open the wound and getting out everything that has become toxic as part of the healing. And that scalpel in the hands of a surgeon wanting to heal a wound and take out the thing that hurts and is causing all of this infection is a healing instrument. But that same scalpel in the hands of a murderer or a sadist is just about going in and cutting for the sake of cutting because you enjoy seeing people in pain because they deserve to be in pain. These actions can look the same. And I bring this up because I'm going to invite you this week to just think a little bit about your relationship with conflict, because it's a little bit like the approaching conflict. Sometimes we need to stir things up. Sometimes we need to cut into something with the intention of figuring out what hurts and what needs to be detoxed and what needs to be cleaned out and bringing it into the light and then suturing it up so that we can get on with healing. And, Monique, you brought up this idea of like sweeping it under the rug makes me think of like pretending the thorn isn't there and letting it fester and toxify the system. We don't want to be doing that. And can it look like a violent act to go in and cut it out? Yes. But we always need to slow down and think a little bit about what is the intention? Am I doing this for healing? Am I coming and bringing up these things in this situation because I'm inviting us all into more care, into more skillfulness, into more capacity, into including the needs of more people, into aligning what we're doing with, deeper values. If I'm coming from that energy, it's more likely to have a healing effect than if I'm coming into that conflict from a place of grandiosity, righteousness, superiority, demand, criticism, and wrongness. And so that's a little bit of the shift that we're all practicing here, as we gather together on Wednesday mornings. So Monique, I just want to come back to you. How's that landing on you, hearing it that way?
Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful. Good. Thank you again. That's why I'm here.
All right. Awesomeness. It's lovely to be here with you. So I'm looking at the time. We have about 4 minutes left. I'm just going to scan through some of the questions. Some of the questions were in general, don't call on me. And so let me just answer some of those. Somebody wants to know why I have the details of she, her behind my name. And I'm happy to address that. That's a great question. Partly because it's an accessibility thing for me. I know people are calling in from all over the world, and maybe I won't be able to do this justice in the few minutes that I have. So here's my very brief and completely incomplete answer to that question. In the interests of trying to play with language and the ways that we identify ourselves and the ways in which we use pronouns, what happens when you have a marginalized community, so for example, a non-binary community wanting to be called they, them, if the burden of the marginalized community is always to identify themselves as marginalized by having to speak against the norm by saying, well, by the way, I prefer they, them. And the only people who have the burden of saying how they prefer to be identified are the people who are in the minority. Let me see, I'm not saying this very accurately. The reason that I put she, her is to stand in solidarity with what if all of us just identified how we would like to be identified. She, her, he, him, they, them, she, them, they, whatever it is that you want. And that became a part of what we communicated with one another. It's a way of including and caring for everyone without needing people to sort of do something that is not culturally normative and go through that added burden of like needing to say, by the way, I'm different from all of you in this way. And it just becomes a more accessible way of playing with language. Now, in some parts of the United States, especially in the therapy communities that I'm in, it's becoming very normative for therapists to just proactively put these things in the ways that we identify themselves as a way of standing in solidarity and not wanting people to feel like there's something weird or different about asking to be identified in the way that you prefer. I'm not imposing that on anyone. That's the reason why I'm doing it. I hope that answers the question. There's a lot more nuance to this conversation. We could have it another day. But I'm hoping that any questions on that, any comments on that? I may just open that to those of you who are on the call right now, if there's anything that's confusing about that. Aurora, yes, hi.
I would just add real quickly that it helps undo the norm that by looking at someone, you can understand how you should refer to them. And that part of the introduction becomes, this is my name, which you wouldn't be able to guess by looking at me. These are my pronouns, which you wouldn't be able to guess by looking at me. And just kind of wraps that all together.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for adding that. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes. So there we go. As we close the call today, thank you so much for being here with me. It is a delight to be here on Wednesday mornings. Please join me again next week. And look for an email. I will be sending out an email about the podcast when it goes live, and you will all have access to that. And, thank you for being on this journey with me. I have enjoyed watching this community grow, and I'm super excited to see where we're heading next. So have a fabulous week, everybody. And I will see you back next Wednesday. You can unmute, say goodnight, say goodbye.
Thanks, Yvette.
Thank you,
Yvette.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Yvette. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to go read the chat now, which is always my fun thing to do after these calls, is go read the chat. So have a great week, everyone. Bye.